Alright, so this review is for Captain America the Winter Soldier, but it will incorporate a lot of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and how I personally think and hope the show is going to change because of some of the things that happened in the movie. So there will be spoilers in this, but I will tell you guys when the spoilers are coming. So the first part of this will actually just be a spoiler-free review of the film itself. That way you can at least get an interpretation of it. But honestly, just go see the movie because it is amazing. I don't think anyone said anything bad about it from the couple of reviews I've watched, and even just the titles for other reviews I've seen. Most people love this movie, and it's for a great reason. This is an amazing Marvel film, and one of the best things about it is how much happens in the movie. One of the biggest things about it is that the Winter Soldier, when you actually watch the movie, the Winter Soldier isn't as big a part of it as you might think, but with some of the things that happen in the film with the character, I think they're gonna at least make this character important. I mean, the character is pretty cool to begin with, and of course, you've seen it in the trailers. He's fighting Captain America. They're in the one scene where Cap throws his shield and the Winter Soldier catches it. That right there sort of shows you what level they're at, and it's pretty much at the same level. And throughout the entire movie, every time they have a fight, it is almost dead even. And I love those fights because in this movie, one of the greatest things we get to see is Captain America fight. In the initial movie, I feel like, for the most part, because it is an actual war movie, he's just in war. So it's him using guns or him going in mostly with his shield, blocking people, while his team is going around there shooting people. And he hits someone here, punch somebody there, throw his shield, block something, this and that. But in this movie, even in the very beginning, the first thing we see is Cap working with Shield, and he's not really just gung ho army guy. He's actually in like stealth ninja mode in the beginning, which is actually amazing. That was one of my favorite parts of the movie because we got to see Cap after he's built up all this experience with the first movie in the Avengers. In this, we get to see him use it in a different way where he's not just in the middle of a giant battle, he's actually going in to save some people, and he's doing a covert mission like we cannot get busted. So he's doing his stealth thing, and the first person he attacked, I think he does a kick, and the guy just goes flying off the boat or into like a wall or something. And I thought that's cool to see because we haven't gotten that yet with Captain America, where we actually see normal people get punched by him and they get sent flying. It's normally him hitting someone with his shield and they go flying like he did when he was fighting the Nazis when he was in their camp towards the end of the first movie. But that was really about it, where he fought a big group of people and he sort of hit them with his shield and stuff. But in this, there are a lot of different sections where he hits a lot of average people and they will go flying. He'll block with his shield and do just one hard punch and they'll be sent flying, or he'll jump over them and do like a hard kick with the super strength that he does have, and they'll be sent flying. They can't stand up to this guy, and it's really cool to see that implemented in the film. And they use it throughout. They use it in a couple of other ways too, not just him beating up normal people, but him making large jumps and him surviving big falls and things like that. That just look really cool. They actually emphasize the fact that he can survive a lot of cool things because of this super soldier serum. He's not just buff. He has super strength and he has speed, and they even reference that in dialogue that he can run faster than most people because if he runs in normal shoes, they'll fall off. So I thought that was cool that they do take the time to emphasize the fact that he's not just strong, he can survive, he's durable, he is Captain America because of the super soldier serum. And it's not just I can punch you real hard, I can do other things too. And it's really cool to see that emphasized in this movie. And then he goes up against the Winter Soldier, and it's emphasized that even though he is durable and he's super strong and he's mentally smart just because of the character that he is, he still has to face off against this very serious challenge. And that challenge is the Winter Soldier and just how insanely deadly he is as a character. And every time he's in it, there's just no dialogue. It's just, I have a mission, you gotta go, and you gotta go. And he just fights people, and either he wins or he loses. He goes through, and of course it's Captain America, so there are moments with Cap working with the team that he has in this movie. It's Black Widow and Falcon for the first time, so of course they end up working together in certain points. So it's hard to take on one person when you have two other people sometimes helping them out. But even if it was 3-on-1, Winter Soldier can hold his own. He's just a cool character. Plus, he's got like a metal arm. That's an amazing advantage when you think about it, because there are moments where he goes against Cap and he ends up with his shield, or he'll block the shield just with his hand, like he did in the trailer. He does that a few times, and it's cool every time he does it because it's like nobody can do that to Cap except for this guy, and they don't just make it in passing. It's like Cap's about to do like a real hardcore move, and he just stops it, and it's like that's really cool to see. But he's an amazing character who barely speaks at all in this film. I think he maybe has a page worth of dialogue, not even a whole page within the entire script. It's just the Winter Soldier flips or kicks or something. He barely has any actual lines in the movie, but it's a really great character to see. Just an amazing action villain too, that goes up against Cap that no one else can really stand up against aside from the main character of this movie. But there's so much stuff that happens in it that's amazing, and there's a huge twist within it, and that I won't get into spoilers with. But overall, this movie is worth seeing. It's without a doubt one of the best Marvel movies, and it's an amazing first step for Phase Two. And I cannot wait to see how they carry out Captain America's character, because I feel like Captain America doesn't really get a lot of publicity like most characters. A lot of people, I think, hardly really know about him in the general populace of, oh, I like Spider-Man and X-Men and stuff like that. Captain America is one of the few people that really gets a spotlight. He's had these two films and like a really old Marvel movie when they first started doing those. But he's never really had anything else. He's in the Avengers shows, of course, and he was in like the 1990 Spider-Man cartoon, which that's where I got most of my stuff for pretty much every Marvel character was that 1990 Spider-Man cartoon. But that's it. He gets bits and pieces because he's such an integral figure in a lot of Marvel. But as far as general people, a lot of people don't get to see Captain America and who he really is. And this movie did an amazing job of doing that, especially in a company to the first one where he was in his own time. And this is really the first one where he was in present, modern times in the Avengers, but in this one it's about him dealing with Shield. It's not just we have Loki coming in and we all have to band together. It's just that's over. This is sort of day to day type of situational stuff, and when you're working for Shield, it's not exactly easy. But it's an amazing film. It's not just over the top action. It has an amazing story. Actually, it's very well paced. All the characters get good moments here and there. Nick Fury is a big component of this, which I actually enjoyed. It was kind of like in Iron Man 2, he's a part of it. But that was really him just kind of trying to recruit, I can't even, Tony Stark. I was just going to say Robert Downey Jr., but that was him just trying to recruit Tony. And in this one, it's actually him working with S.H.I.E.L.D. and doing what he does for S.H.I.E.L.D. So I thought that was a lot cooler than him just trying to start up the Avengers Initiative in Iron Man 2. He was in it doing S.H.I.E.L.D. work, and I guess technically he was then too, but obviously that was just so fans like me could just be happy that they kept talking about it. But now that that's passed, it's just Nick Fury doing what Nick Fury does, and it was great to see that in action. And it's an overall amazing film, great action. They had subtle comedy and it was good. It wasn't over the top. Action, like I said, was absolutely amazing. Loved every moment of it, especially because I love hand to hand combat. That's pretty much all this was. It was gunfights and hand to hand combat in this entire film. And I always love that, especially because it lets them create really good choreography that doesn't come from laser beams or just one super hard punch or, Thor throwing a hammer. It's just people who have to get close to each other at some point, at least. I mean, obviously Cap can throw his shield, but at some point, when he fights two people, he can't just throw his shield and hit every single person. He has to throw his shield at one guy and flat out take someone else out physically. So it was cool to see that, and I really love it personally. I don't know if you guys enjoy the over the top like Iron Man style or Hulk style, which actually is hand to hand, but I really enjoyed it, and it was just a great movie overall. So definitely check it out. And now I'm gonna get to some of the spoiler stuff because it involves Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and I'm really curious to see how they work things out. But if you haven't seen the movie right now, spoilers. So the biggest thing that's happening in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. right now is they're trying to figure out who is the clairvoyant, and they have a notion that instead of this person actually being a psychic, they find out it's actually someone within Shield who is, high ranking, and they just have all these files. They have all the information on everybody. And that's why they know everything. That's how they know what's happening with this person or where someone else might be. That's how they get the information. And that ties almost directly into Captain America. And we find out who exactly the clairvoyant is, and it's one of the head people within S.H.I.E.L.D. who's actually above Fury, who hired Fury in. And one of the characters that they also have in there is Sitwell, and he's been introduced within Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., or he was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He was introduced sort of just before the show came out during some of their little independent episodes, and that's where he was introduced. And we find out in this movie that he's actually a bad guy because these people who are considering themselves clairvoyant, whoever the lead person might be, they all actually work for Hydra, and I cannot wait to see how that affects Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, tonight is the first episode after the opening weekend of Captain America, and we'll have to see how they really play things out. I don't know the exact storyline, but if I had to guess, I would say this episode does take place before Captain America. So we'll have to see how they pace it out, and when it eventually catches up to Captain America, I would assume the season finale will be, they catch up with Captain America, and then after that, season 2 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will still be Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., of course, but it'll be a completely different Shield. It won't be we have rules here, rules there, and Nick Fury says this and that. Because if you obviously, as you know, Nick Fury left Shield because Shield is completely destroyed, so he's gone into hiding. So I'm really excited to see exactly how things work for Agents of Shield after this happens. But if they tie it in right, I think it could actually bring Agents of Shield up to a whole new level because with Shield within the Marvel universe being destroyed at this point, I think a lot of fans would love to see how the world operates, how the Shield world operates when there is no Shield. At least I would love to see that, even though it's gonna focus on these main characters, which it has to have some focus on someone. It won't just skip around all over the planet. But it'll be cool to see how characters who have grown up within Shield, and also Sky, who was introduced in the show to Shield, how are they gonna adjust to the fact that Hydra has been infiltrating Shield basically from the very beginning, and now it's completely destroyed itself from within, and Hydra's still out there. Like, the guy who was fighting against Falcon, he didn't actually die, so I'm excited to see them bring some Hydra stuff back for future films and possibly for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But I think leading up to season 2, or at least in season 2, that's when they're gonna have the best tie-in to Captain America, because like I said, right now Coulson and his team just figured out someone within Shield is working for working for the bad guys, or is the bad guy themselves. So they're giving information, and they're taking information in, and they're using it to get what they want. And we find out in Captain America that it has, it has more to do with just one person calling themselves clairvoyant. It's an entire operation within Shield, and of course that's Hydra. And it was one of the best tie-ins I've seen. They had the little stuff with Thor, where they had a staff, the Chitauri staff, or I think it was a Chitauri gun. I think it was the staff from the Avengers, and that was cool. And then they had an actual character from Thor: The Dark World and the initial Thor movie, Sith or Civ. I cannot pronounce the name. It's like Sif, something like that. But she actually came in, and that was at that time, I think, the best tie-in. But this, personally, with Captain America, having seen the last episode where they find out the clairvoyant is actually someone working within S.H.I.E.L.D. to destroy it, and then I went to see Captain America, and it's like, it's all Hydra, and Sitwell's actually one of the bad guys, and the almost head of S.H.I.E.L.D. is one of the bad guys as well. I thought that was an amazing tie-in, and even though Captain America, of course, is an amazing film on its own, it's one of those things, like, when you read, it's just like in the comic book universe. Actually, it's a perfect parallel. When there's one huge situation going on, like the Civil War. Everyone has their own Civil War going on, and you can read all the separate comics, and they come together to have one expansive storyline. It's just like that with the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV series, and then you go to see the Captain America movie, and you see how perfectly it ties in. And like I said, I do believe that the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episodes are currently before the Captain America movie does actually take place, but it's still an amazing tie-in, even if it is technically, or the Captain America movie is technically in the future from the episodes. It ties in perfectly well, and it was the best way to experience that was seeing the last episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and then going to Captain America, and then tonight I'm gonna get to see the next episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and how they play it out and how it will tie in perfectly to Captain America, or if it doesn't, and we'll have to sort of wait and see how they actually implemented some of their writing skills into tying into Captain America. But I am very excited for what this means for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because I like the show itself, but such a drastic change that happened within Captain America is going to change the show entirely, and I cannot wait to see how they change that show up because of the fact that there will be no more Shield. Will they even have the plane anymore? Will they still technically be a team? Will they be able, will they be able to be a team anymore? What are they gonna do? Are they gonna branch out like the people did in Captain America, where we saw some of the main characters, they all go off and kind of just get different jobs? Is that gonna happen in the beginning of season 2 for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., or is that going to change? But either way, I'm really excited to see it. And I do think we'll get to have a lot more tie-ins. Once that happens, it's going to be such a huge thing for the entire Marvel universe. It's going to affect every other film from now on. And I think it'll give us a lot of more interesting tie-ins because the characters won't have to go through Shield, and they won't be tied to this organization that a lot of the Marvel characters don't exactly trust. So now they'll just be normal people who kind of want to just help the planet. And I think we'll be able to get more tie-ins into the actual show itself. Of course, it'll be hard to just bring in the actors, but they could tie it in some way. They could get the sort of side characters to come into the shows, and maybe Agent Hill, or they could get Nick Fury. He was in the second episode. He's gonna be in another episode. It might be tonight if things work out for the team in this episode, or it might end up being in the season finale, or maybe just the next episode. I'm not sure how many we have left, but it was a great tie-in. Definitely my favorite, just because I cannot wait to see how much changes for season 2 now that Shield is gone. But they're doing really good in their whole expansive universe style thing, just like they do in the comic books. So you have the movie experience, and it ties in perfectly well to the TV show, even if it's technically at a different time. But I can't wait to see how it goes. But definitely comment below and let me know what you guys think is going to change for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And of course, tell me what you guys thought of Captain America. I mean, it's a great film. There's not much else you can say about that. One thing that is very interesting, if you saw the extra credit scene, like before they did the long credits, they put in Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, and anyone who knows about X-Men Days of Future Past knows that all the X-Men films are separate from all the continuous Marvel films. They're completely separate from that. You can't have them in there because of all the different clauses and stuff. Just like Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man films are a third company, I believe. But they have the same characters, and that kind of blew my mind because I knew Quicksilver was going to be in Days of Future Past. And I'm very curious to see what can they do with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch now that they've implemented them within sort of the continuous Marvel universe. They're coming out with, of course, Avengers 2. Are I remember hearing that, but I completely forgot about it, honestly. But I do remember hearing that Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch would actually be in the Avengers. And then when I actually saw the movie, when I saw Captain America, it made me think, the X-Men movies are actually owned by a different company, and that just clicked in my head finally. They're going to have the same characters, even though, of course, X-Men comes out this year, so we won't actually see Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch in the Avengers movie until next year, I believe. But they will be in 2 films. I don't know if Scarlet Witch is in Days of Future Past. I think she is, but even if it's just one of the characters, Quicksilver is going to be in two separate movies at two separate times, and they're going to be played by different actors. It was just really interesting to see that, and it sort of threw me for a loop because I completely forgot. But excited to see how that works out and if they bring in some of the X-Men characters, because it's hard to bring in Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch and just have those two without having Magneto when you think about it, because they're his kids. But they kind of have to work around some weird laws in order to even get Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch in there. So I'm curious to see how that plays out too. But love the film, love how it tied into the show. Like I said, let me know what you guys think is going to happen with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. now that Captain America has kind of given us a glimpse into the future of what S.H.I.E.L.D. really has in store for itself. Comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.